Hi everybody, welcome to Business Management Lesson 7. This will be the second and final video for Unit 3, Area Study 3. And today we're going to focus on quality management, lean management, corporate social responsibility, and global considerations. So to start off with a very brief overview of quality. Quality is essentially the durability and reliability of a good and service. Quality is essential for competitiveness because customers will actively choose businesses and goods which are of a higher quality. And quality correlates into market share. So as customers actively choose your product over others in the industry, the business's market share will increase as well. There are 3 quality strategies that we need to know. The first one is quality control. Quality control is a series of physical checks at different stages of production to ensure that products meet designated quality standards. So what that means is only some employees are responsible for quality control. They are at certain standards in the production line and they will pull out defective products. So we call this a reactive strategy, in that defective products are actually made in the first place, except it's up to the employees to ensure that those products are not sold to customers. The next type is quality assurance. So quality assurance is when an external body monitors the business's processes, and if they believe that they meet designated standards, either international or domestic quality standards, then that business is provided with a certification. Once that business is provided with a certification, they can advertise that and use that in their marketing, which helps them to increase their market share, as customers will actively choose businesses with a certification over those that don't have it, because it just gives the perception that those goods and services are of a higher quality. Quality assurance is a proactive approach because once the business has that certification, they have to work really, really hard to maintain that standard of quality and ensure that defective products are not made in the first place. Because if there was defective products, they may lose that certification. A good example of quality assurance is ISO 9001. And finally, the third quality management strategy, is total quality management. So total quality management is where all employees are responsible for ongoing quality improvements. So there's a Japanese phrase called Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. And what that means is that every single employee is continuously improving on the business's quality. The employees within the business break up into quality circles, which are small groups of employees where employees create strategies to improve quality. This is really, really beneficial because it's the employees who are working in the business and they can see where issues are arising, things are going wrong, and things need to be improved. So the strategies that are devised in quality circles are likely to be very effective. Because the employees are thinking of ways to improve quality and are continuously improving, it's a proactive response in that they're preventing the likelihood of defective products being made in the first place. The final aspect of TQM is customer focus. The employees are committed to ongoing improvements in everything that they do and thinking about what the customer wants and how to better achieve that by improving quality. Now we're going to move on to comparing the 3 strategies. So when you're comparing them, you want to be comparing the similar kind of thing. So with comparing whether they're proactive or reactive, quality control is a reactive strategy, whereas the other 2, quality assurance and total quality management, are proactive. They're eliminating the chance of defective products in the first place. Furthermore, quality control is only certain employees' responsibility. Only some employees are responsible for pulling out the defective products, whereas quality assurance and total quality management is kind of all employees who are responsible. Another thing to mention is that quality control and total quality management are an internal process, whereas quality assurance is conducted by an external body. Now we're going to be moving on to lean management. So lean management is a bit different to waste minimization. Waste minimization is essentially just eliminating any physical waste from the business through reduce, reuse, recycle. Lean management is instead waste minimization, but at the same time reducing your costs. So you're eliminating anything in the business that does not add value. And when we're talking about lean management, there are 3 principles that are best to use. Just in time, which we talked about in materials management. Kaizen, which is continuous improvement through total quality management. And automation, which is replacing humans with technology, which you spoke about in technological developments. The next topic is corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility is ensuring that employees and the business act ethically and take responsible for the economic, social, and environmental impacts of the business, whilst being accountable to a wide range of stakeholders. Corporate social responsibility is essentially when the business goes above and beyond their legal requirements. So doing more than what they legally have to do. Corporate social responsibility is really, really important for improving the business's reputation, as well as giving back to the community and the environment. And corporate social responsibility is becoming more and more important. Investors are now starting to look at the triple bottom line, which not only measures the business's economic performance, but also their environmental and social performance when considering whether to invest into businesses. Here's some ways that the business can implement CSR. It's good to structure them in regards to inputs, processes, and outputs. So for inputs, the business can source inputs from suppliers that use strict codes of conduct, which do not use child labour, slave labour, exploitation of workers. A business can also source inputs from local farmers to support the local economy and also reduce carbon emissions because the transportation is less. In regards to processes, a business can use ethical disposal of waste to try and reduce pollution. They can also use solar panels and more renewable energy sources to power their factories and machinery. Another thing would be to go above and beyond occupational health and safety hazards to implement better safety practices for employees when using dangerous tasks. And finally, in regards to outputs, the business can reduce the amount of packaging or use biodegradable packaging. And they can also improve their warranties and returns policies, and also use ethical advertising rather than advertising purely for sales, potentially highlighting issues associated with purchase, such as for alcohol companies, addressing the issues of alcoholism, junk food companies asserting the issues of obesity and that kind of thing. And this brings us on to our final dot point of supply chain management. So supply chain management is when organizations, people, activities, and information are involved in moving services and products from suppliers to manufacturers and then onto customers. So essentially, it's just the same as operations management, controlling the source of inputs into outputs and then onto customers. So supply chain management is really focused on distribution and logistics, moving inputs from overseas to Australia for production in Australia, for example. Within supply chain management, there are 3 global issues that we need to know. Global sourcing of inputs, which is where you source your inputs from suppliers overseas. So you might source cotton from China, fabrics from Thailand, etc. Overseas manufacturing is when you produce your goods and services in a factory overseas, either by going to an already established, clothing manufacturer in China or creating your own factory overseas. Obviously, it's a lot cheaper to go to a pre-existing factory overseas. And finally, global outsourcing. So this is when the business contracts another business overseas to perform all of its external functions. So these are all the extra things that a business needs, which isn't essential and it's not linked to their goods and services. It's all the extra things that are vital to running a business, like having IT, call centers, website development, all the extra things that if the business can do cheaper, it increases their profit margin significantly because it's not actually generating any real direct revenue. The strength of using global supply chain management is that the business is able to source resources that are unavailable in Australia. So that provides a competitive advantage. This might be through sourcing inputs from a supplier in Switzerland, which provides some really unique health benefit for products in Australia, or sourcing some state-of-the-art machinery which no other business in Australia has. That helps the business to stand out from all other businesses in Australia. Also, it's usually a lot cheaper because it allows businesses to make use of the labour laws overseas rather than paying Australian employees $25 an hour. You can make use of cheap labour overseas. And that's for all three of the global issues. Primarily for, I guess, all three of them, but I guess primarily for overseas manufacturing, you can take advantage of highly specialized workers overseas because you can go to a factory that manufactures clothes in China, which is a lot more productive and a lot more of a higher quality than the factories you would find potentially in Australia. And that improves the quality and productivity of the business. Same with call centers and website development in overseas countries as well. And finally, from a CSR perspective, it provides jobs to third world countries and, reduces poverty overseas. Weaknesses, however, is that there are a lot of delays in delivery, especially for global sourcing inputs and overseas manufacturing. So that can reduce efficiency of the business because they may have to wait months for things to be delivered from overseas. For all three of them, there are a number of hidden costs through taxes, currency fluctuations, postage, that kind of thing. Also, there's less control over quality because if you're sourcing inputs from overseas, you don't know what they look like and what the quality is until you receive them in Australia. There's no one really there to oversee the day-to-day operations, which may reduce the quality of the overall goods and services. And also, it's hard to monitor the working conditions of employees overseas. So it's really, really important that businesses ensure that suppliers that they deal with do not use child labour, exploitation of workers and that kind of thing. And finally, the issue that it creates job losses for Australian employees by, giving jobs overseas instead. So that brings us to the end of Unit 3, Area Study 3, and the end of Unit 3 altogether. I hope that this has been helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.